grow up, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. Oh no, a singer. I'll just be whatever mama is.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Give up on my way home, yeah. Wouldn't it be crazy? Oh, don't you still amaze me? Wouldn't it be crazy? Oh, don't you still amaze me? Wouldn't it be crazy? Oh, don't you still amaze me? Wouldn't it be crazy? Oh, don't you still amaze me? Give up on my way home, yeah.
I certainly have to acknowledge all the people who have supported me thus far with Slaynuh Sofa, whether that's people who have reposted, shared me, retweeted, tweeted, whatever. And I have to give a special shout out to my friends and family who have supported me by buying a Slaynuh Sofa button. I call it a pin. I mean, I'm pretty sure the words are interchangeable in some, languages and some variations of languages, whatever, but I am still selling Slaynuh Sofa buttons and pins. You can put them on your shirt, you can put them on your backpack, your laptop case, whatever you want to do with it. So if you would like one, they are $3, and that's $3 if you can, meet me physically somewhere on campus. If you go to ECU or you're in this area, we can meet up and it's $3. But if I have to mail it to you, if you're out of state or not local, it's going to be $6 because, I have to pay for shipping. To get a button from me, all you have to do is message me directly on one of my social media handles or send it to my email. And if you already have my phone number, just text me. We can meet up and I can get you a button. So thank you so much to the people who've already supported me financially, the people who are going to support me. And if you can't support me financially, I completely understand. Times is hard. So support me when you can, and or support me in another way that does not, mean you have to spend money necessarily at this point in time. The methods that I accept are cash and using an app called Cash App. Thank you guys so much. Once again, I can't fathom how quickly this is taking off and how many people actually are believing in my vision and seeing it. So thank you so much. I love you all. You all are Slaynuh supporters. You all are getting me every single day a step closer to purchasing a better microphone so that I can improve the quality of my podcast listens. So thank you so much. Thanks for checking out Slaynuh Sofa, the podcast created to be your peace among the pandemonium. Sorry for the delay in the update. I have been so busy. I'm currently under the weather. I think I'm coming down with a cold or something. But nevertheless, I'm back and I'm trying to get better. As always, I'm going to start off with one bruise and one band-aid. One bruise would be me just out of nowhere becoming ill with something or just feeling bad physically. Thankfully, it's not mentally, but, physical health is important as well. And one band-aid has been that I had a great weekend, so that really jump-started me, for the week. I was in Fayetteville and Rayford with my Uncle Junior and my Aunt Janice, with my parents and my siblings, and it was just so wonderful. I really enjoyed myself there. We went to Joe's Crab Shack. We checked out the mall there. And, we had a really good quality time, so that would be my Band-Aid. And I was also with my cousin Lorenza. Again, please comment below your bruise and your Band-Aid thus far. As you can tell from the title, this listen is going to be about chasing your craft. So chase your craft. You may be listening and you may be asking yourself, how do we go about chasing our crafts? For some people, it's rather easy. Some people are born into them. So, there's people who you may personally know who are natural athletes, artists, health caregivers, teachers, chefs, etc. But at the same time, we can't minimize their work ethic, because these same people usually work day in and day out to perfect their craft, because they know that there's always room for improvement. So just because they know what they want to do does not mean that they don't work as hard as anyone else or they're lazy. For some people, they come into their lifestyles later on. So, for example, we have Vera Wang. She grew up as a figure skater before she catapulted into the magazine industry. But many people don't know that, because the internationally known fashion designer didn't become independent and begin, designing bridal wear until she was 40 years old. someone who, people may know more than Vera Wang is Samuel Jackson. He's arguably one of the greatest actors, to be on this planet. He spent most of his lifetime acting, but he wasn't internationally recognized until his 30th film, and not 13th, 30th, 30th film in 1994, which was titled Pulp Fiction. And these are just two figures who provide us with evidence that 4-year, 8-year, and programs dozens of months long are not the only answers. So sometimes you have to go through stuff and grow through it so that God can expose you to who you potentially can be. And then there are some like me. You have to place yourselves in several positions to find what you want to do. Someone who I grew up admiring through social media, more so television, was Oprah Winfrey. We all know she comes from very humble beginnings, had quite a complex life. But what is so interesting to me, apart from that, is that she didn't just wake up one day saying, I want to be possibly the most well-known and the best, TV host and all these other accolades that she has. She actually began in a not completely different, but in another kind of setting. So she wasn't always just, a TV personnel. So Oprah Winfrey entered the Tennessee State University in 1971, and that's where she began working in radio and television broadcasting in Nashville. So, radio and television, they're both, talking basically, but they're not the exact same thing. There's much more to Oprah Winfrey's story. I don't want to dilute it or misrepresent, it too much. There's so many different videos about her that I've watched, where she's speaking in interviews, and she's just a wealth of knowledge. So I'll attach some of those particular videos that I've watched and enjoyed in the description comments. But back to people who are like me. People like me know why they want to do something, but we just don't know what is necessarily. And I'm gonna say, something to do with linguistics, my minor. What I essentially want to do with my minor, aside from teaching overseas, specifically in somewhere in South America, because I will have my TESOL certificate, which is teaching English to speakers of other languages. So with that, I'd want to volunteer for a program where I can teach English in a classroom setting, but that's not like my outlook, career. I don't want to do that forever. A program that I would partake in would be a couple of years, so about 2 years long. But after that, I would return more than likely to the States and, try to figure something out. Aside from that benefit of my minor, I want to break the barriers regarding dialectal and language prejudices, because they are very ignorant and hindering to our world. And it's not just in America. I am certain that most of you can say that you are familiar with the notion that British Black English is, I'm using quotation marks, sophisticated, intelligent, fancy, beautiful, but people from the South, such as North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, even deeper in the South, people who speak Southern American English, which is a variety of English, people consider that to be, and I'm quoting again, dumb, slow, unintelligent, whatever word you want to use there. But it basically is saying that people who speak British English are above people who speak variations often that are considered Southern American English or even African American English. And growing up my entire life, if you can't tell from my voice, I've been told that I sound intelligent, I sound smart, I sound sophisticated. And when I was younger, I used to take that as a compliment, because when people say, oh, you sound smart, you sound this, that, third, it's stuff that's positive. You're like, oh, well, I am smart, so that's true, thank you. But the older that I got and the more that I got into linguistics, because I always knew that linguistics was a thing, I just never knew what it was called, so I never knew I could actually take classes for this. But as I got older and I started taking these linguistics classes, when people tell me, oh, you sound so smart, you sound so sophisticated, I ask, what do you mean? And oftentimes that causes them to stop in their tracks, and they're like, oh, well, you just... And ultimately what they're trying to say is, you sound white. And I take pride in saying that I am a strong Black woman. And we set ourselves up for failure when we fall into this belief that you have to be a fairer skin to quote unquote sound smart, sound intelligent. And let's be clear that the way you talk is not connected to what you know, what type of information you know, what type of information you retain. Someone who says she is going to the store is not any more smart than someone who says she finna go to the store or something like that. Or if someone says she be late instead of she's always late, what is the difference other than it being spoken differently in different dialects of English? Let's break this. I'm not going to get too much into this because this is about chasing your dreams, but this is something I'm clearly passionate about. So let me just break this down a little bit for you. What is the difference between she is late? What is the difference between she is always late and she be late? The only difference is in variations of English, like Southern American English and African American English, people use the habitual be in that sentence to mean it is continuous, it's habitual. That's what habitual means. Always, spoken in the standard English and other variations of English that people, quote unquote say are superior. That's literally the only difference. So when people talk about certain dialects, what they're really talking about are the people who speak them. They're not talking about the actual sounds and the actual words. So I want people to be educated on the way that they speak. None of us sound the same. There are people who speak English all over, but none of us sound the exact same. I'm from the North. I have different, sounds that are of northern varieties of English, but I also live in the South now. And also up north, you can find a large amount of people who are from the South or have Southern influences on their dialect. So you can hear Southern American English in Black communities up north, just like you can hear Southern American English in, Black communities, white communities, whatever, in the South. And the variety that someone speaks is not contingent upon the color of their skin. That doesn't mean that, say, a white person can't speak African American English. If they grew up in a neighborhood with predominantly Black people, they are going to speak the dialect that they hear among mostly their friends and their peers. And that's different than someone trying to quote unquote be Black. If that's all you know, there's nothing wrong with that. It becomes a problem when you try to imitate people and mock people. But if that's genuinely how you grew up and how you speak, don't let anyone try to minimize you. And that's the same thing with Black people. If you grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood or went to a predominantly white school, or just in a community in general that spoke a variety of English that quote unquote white people speak, don't feel as though you need to conform to, well, I sound white, so I'm white. You're not white. And I'm not going to get into the discussion of, different, I'm doing a lot of quotes because these are preconceived notions that are going to take forever to unbreak. But we need to stop breaking people up into groups because that's further dividing us. Yes, it's important to note that there is systematic oppression against minorities and that people who aren't a minority have privilege that cannot be removed from them. But we need to look at this from a scientific and linguistic standpoint, that language is just language. Don't say that someone who says y'all in Southern American English is dumb, because it's also used in African American English. But holistically, look at where it derives from. You can fact check me, but if I'm not mistaken, ye all was spoken by Scots Irish immigrants who settled in southern parts of the United States. So of that, a variety of you all, y'all came out of that. So again, think about what you mean when you say you don't like a certain variety of English. Are you saying you don't like the variety, or you don't like the person who's speaking the variety? And this is true for every language. There are different dialects that are perceived as better than others and some that are worse than others. But I'm specifically talking about English because that's the one that I am fluent in, the one that I speak and I know the most about. And keep in mind what I'm saying, these are not my opinions, these are facts. My minor is linguistics, which is the study of empirical evidence that's regarding, the speech of humans, which includes nature, structure, and the development of language or a group of languages. And like I said before, if you don't believe me or the evidence, you can do your own research and then prove linguists and I otherwise. So again, someone who speaks British English, for example, isn't any more, quote, intelligent than a speaker of Hawaiian Pidgin, because speech doesn't equate to intelligence, and all varieties of languages do the same thing. You can communicate meanings, you can communicate messages, you can ask questions, and there are different purposes for different, communications and contexts. And you all know this, it's just you might not know it in these specific terms, but I'm pretty sure we can all come to an agreement that languages are useful, all of them, no matter whether you can speak it or not. So to kind of condense that, I want to educate people about linguistics. I want to incorporate these type of classes way before people get to college. I want to incorporate this into middle school classes, college classes, middle school classes, high school classes. I also want to use my platform to eradicate financial illiteracy, literature illiteracy. I want to be sure that people, no matter their circumstances, can have food, can have health care. That is not something that we should have to debate about. It's something that everyone should have. So you may be listening to this and ask yourself, how will this all wrap into one career? Your guess is just as good as mine. I know that may sound scary, but you have to trust the process. I've always been an English major since coming to college. So since my freshman year, I've been an English major. And when I told my parents, my siblings, and those closest to me, and my advisor that I was changing my minor, that was one of the hardest things I've had to do in college. In a nutshell, I wanted to go to med school and be a pediatrician. And it was really an eye-opening experience for me, because no matter how much hard work I put into my minor by studying, going to tutoring, doing everything that I was supposed to do, it just was not working for me. It just would not click. And in the very, very back of my mind, I kid you guys not, I swear, even since freshman year, in the back of my mind, I always knew that I would come back to English. And I'm not saying I ever left it, but with the science minor, I had to dedicate a lot of time into that as well. And I still have to with my linguistics minor, but it's a completely different ballgame. And I took me not retaining what I needed to retain in science as a sign from God. God will put up roadblocks for you when he knows that he has something better out there for you. No matter what you do or what anyone else does, if it's not written in God's book, if it's not written in his plan for you, it is not going to work out. It is not going to happen. That is with a job, a relationship, a major, anything. If it's not for you, it won't be for you no matter what you do, what you say, nothing. But if it's your purpose, if it's from God, there's nothing or no one who can take that from you. No matter what you're faced with, there will be a way to get to the other end, and you will come out on top. And that's really been something I've had to accept since coming to college. I've never faced rejection all my life, really, until I really, became an adult. I'd make the cheerleading team, I'd make the soccer team, I'd make the basketball team, I'd get A's and B's on all my papers, all my tests for the most part, things of that nature. And I know partially it was because of my ability. I'm a smart person, I like to think. Also because people liked me. But there wasn't a whole lot of trial and error for me. I usually always got what I worked for really hard. So coming to college and not getting that job that I applied for, or not doing so well on a test that I thought I really needed, it all has really molded me into a much better, not only student, but a person. If something is for you, God is going to sign it, seal it, and deliver it to you. It might not be when you want it, but that just means you're not ready to receive that blessing. When you are ready for your blessing, God will drop it in your lap, and it will be the best thing since sliced bread. Like, seriously. When you're not ready, he may say something like, just wait, or not yet. Or if it's not for you at all, this isn't it, kid. Sorry, not sorry. This one isn't for you. Keep trying. And I'm not calling myself a prophet or anything of that nature, but I will say that the greatest people, those that we look up to often and always single-handedly, quote unquote, failed before they succeeded. It's truly taken me going through trials and tribulations to appreciate being told no, not getting what I want. I appreciate doing things that make me uncomfortable to get me to points that I want to be at. And the only way to know what you truly like is to do a variety of things. That way you learn what you don't like. I've said this if you follow me on Snapchat, pretty sure I put it on other platforms too, and also on one of my podcasts. You have to try things that are not in your comfort zone to get results that are going to make you grow as a person. And you can go into something thinking that's what you want to do and come out on the other end, oh wow, I really don't like that. I thought I would, but I'm grateful for the experiences, because through that you learn, this is who I am, this is what I don't want. And now that I've tried it, I can maybe return to it in the future, but right now, for this point in time, this is where God wants me to be. This is what he wants me to be doing. I was not very open about it just because I'm a pretty private person, unless it's with people close to me. But fall semester of this junior year, fall 2017, I was a candidate / news reporter for the East Carolinian here at ECU. Great experience, great bunch of people. It all boiled down to not being for me. I went in thinking, oh, I want to be a reporter. I wrote great stories. I passed all of the, requirements to become a official staff reporter, passed the exam with about a 95, but it was not what I wanted to do. And just because you're good at something does not mean you need to do that. I know so many people who come to college and take on majors that they don't even like, but they're good at them. And other people want them to take them, and they're like, oh, well, I'm good at it, I might as well do it. If it doesn't set your soul on fire, do not entertain it. Do not do it, because I promise you, maybe not even 5, 10, maybe 1 year from now, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, you're going to regret waking up every single day to go to that job. I promise you. If you don't listen to Lexi Alger, I really recommend listening to her music. Her latest project called Growing Pains is just wonderful. Like, it's perfect for me at this point in time, in the sense that I am growing into another version of myself. I'm going from a caterpillar to a butterfly. And I bring her up not just because she's one of my top favorite artists, but because she has a song on Growing Pains titled Miss Jackson. And she has a line in there that has been stuck in my brain ever since she released Growing Pains. And she's saying, she's 19, but she's saying, because I'm only 19 and I don't want to be trapped in a life that I don't like, if you know what I mean. Like, to me, that just seriously hit my core, because think about it. And in this song, she's talking about a particular relationship, and I'm sure if you talk to her, this may also be applied to, her finding herself as an artist, perfecting her craft. But for me, this was so representative of me not wanting to be trapped in a life that I don't like, because ever since I was a little girl, I always told myself, no matter what I do, I want to wake up every single day and love going to my job. I don't want my job to be something that I am having just because I need to feed my family, I need a paycheck, and I go in every day miserable, looking at the clock, clocking in and clocking out. I despise that. I worked at Food Lion for one summer. I think it was a summer after my freshman year here at ECU. The money was pretty good for someone my age, not really having to deal with a whole lot of responsibilities. But every single day when I go to work, I was like, oh my gosh, there has to be more. than this. And I am not at all undermining people who work 9-to-5s or jobs that are like that. That is just not for me. And I know there are some people who are trapped in those jobs who don't want to be there either. But for some reason, they just cannot get out of it, and that's how they have to support their family. And I do not want to imply that I think that people who work jobs that are non-traditional are any better than anyone else. That's not true. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, for me and for a lot of people, a 9-to-5 is not what I want to do. And I honestly believe that God didn't put anybody on this planet to go to work, clock in, clock out, and do that the same thing every single day. So back to me changing my minor. So it was originally science, okay? And now it's linguistics. But when I did that, I was so distraught. Like, I literally called my parents on the phone, and I was in tears telling them I was thinking about doing this, and something my parents have always told me since I was little. As long as we know you tried your hardest, that's all that matters. And as long as you're happy, we're happy. So I'm so grateful that they were receptive to what I was saying, telling them I was not happy with my minor. Nothing seemed to be working. I need to change it up a little bit and, be who I'm really destined to be, whatever that may be. I also talked to my boyfriend, and he was very supportive of me and my decisions because he's, also in college. He knows what it's like. He gave me a lot of insight and just, tips to being the person. He'd always say, English. That is what you're good at. It's your major. Not necessarily don't deviate from that, but that's what you're great at and you love it. And this was it the end of my sophomore year that I changed my minor? Yeah, it was because I went to London this past summer. So before studying abroad, I was so uncertain about what I wanted my minor to be. It was either going to be, I was thinking linguistics or anthropology, but I couldn't choose between the two because I really enjoy them both. But, ultimately linguistics won. Nevertheless, though, once I studied abroad in London, I knew that I no longer wanted to be a pediatrician. And I knew that there was a reason why I was still so deeply rooted in reading and writing, in exploring diversity through reading and through writing. But before that London experience, there was one particular conversation with a college best friend of mine that planted a seed that just could not be removed from my brain. And Brittany, one of my best friends since coming to ECU, she was actually the friend of my first best friend that I made at ECU named Celeste. So Brittany and I grew closer over time, and it was to the point where we were roommates for the spring semester last year, our sophomore year. Brittany was always bending my mind intellectually, and, just really, when I roomed with her, I really, believed that you don't truly know a person until you live with them. And living with Brittany caused me to love her even more. I got to see her at her worst, her most honest, her most loving, and her most supportive stages. Seeing her work her way into ECU's competitive nursing school was like an achievement for me, because best believe that I know that she earned it. Seeing the dedication that Brittany put, not only just, to get into nursing school, but before that, even now, after that, that experience in Brittany as a person motivated me to be a better version of myself. Every day, she'd tell me, you can do it, just keep pushing. And it wasn't in a, oh, well, this is what you're supposed to say. It's not like it was, something read out of a book. This was genuinely what she told me. She knew I could do it, and she believed in me. And it was this particular conversation that I'm going to bring up towards the end of that semester, spring 2017. Brittany and I, we were having, yet another conversation, and I don't know how exactly, but it got to the point of her asking me why I wanted to be a pediatrician. And I gave her the answer that I basically give to, most people. I want to help people. I want to ensure that all have medical assistance, regardless of their circumstance. And that answer, that's an honest one. That's a true one. But it was honestly basically to the point where, it seemed as though I had memorized it for when people would ask me why. it had become really a safe but wavering answer. And she challenged me with why yet again. And I gave her my best answer possible. I don't remember what it was, but I really gave it. And in the end, I realized that I didn't know that the why because I didn't have one. I mean, yeah, my science grades, they were decent, but they weren't what I wanted. And I wanted to help people, but I wasn't happy through most of it. And I recognized that in order to get what you want in life, sometimes you have to be in situations that you don't like. But I'm telling you guys, it was to a point where I just literally would wait for the semester to end just so that I could get out and be put right in more classes that I didn't like at all. And this wasn't new information to me, but Brittany really helped me see that there was no point in doing something that I really didn't want to do. Because if you ask somebody, why do they want to do something? You should be able to get an answer out of them that is more than just a sentence or two. It should be an answer that you are just sitting there like, wow, responding in awe, because it should be so open-ended. You should just see the light in their eyes when they talk about something. And I really, truly don't believe that when I would say that, people would see the light in my eyes that I get talking about English and linguistics. So Brittany, she told me, just like everybody else that's around me, to stick to reading and writing English because that's what I'm good at. But most importantly, because I love it. And I thanked Brittany that same day. But Brittany, I want to thank you again. You empowered me more than you know in the simplest way possible. So here I am, second semester of my junior year, pursuing a BA in English and a certificate through my linguistics minor to teach English as a second language. To teach English to speakers of other languages. What will I be doing with them? Your guess is as good as mine. Like I said earlier, post-undergrad, I want to, either go right into graduate school or volunteer to teach English as another language overseas. And I want to go somewhere in South America. I've been studying Spanish since 6th grade. I'm nowhere near fluent, and I realized that the bookish Spanish that's taught in class is completely different from the Spanish that's spoken in, Cuba or Mexico or Spain or anywhere else that you go. But I really want to get that exposure to Spanish, and I'm just all about different cultures. So that's why I want to go somewhere in South America. And also because I've already been to Europe because, I went to London. And the Spanish that's spoken there is way different from the Spanish that I know some of. Because, for example, the Vosotros form, they really only use that in Spain. So basically since 6th grade, even into college, they're like, oh, well, they just use that in Spain. We're not going to even study that form. But my Spanish teacher, I'm in Spanish for this semester, the last one that I need to graduate, he's from Spain, so we actually do use that form, and it's really interesting to hear it and actually utilize it. But bottom line, want to go to South America. So I'm going to apply for both graduate school and a program at the same time, and whatever option is best for me at that time, that's the one that I'm going to do after I graduate from ECU, as an undergrad. Other than that, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no internships lined up. I don't have a job. And I'm a very much planned person. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, I have a plan. And I've gotten better with that because I realize that that's not very healthy. But I am a scheduled person. From when I'm going to eat to planning my outfit the night before, planning my days in advance, aside from just assignments, but like what I'm going to do, things of that nature. This is not the life that I envision for myself. And I don't recommend it if you know what you want to do. Get a head start on it. You're never too old or too young to start it. But if you don't know, please, please, please don't get scared. I am really, really okay. When I was on the pre-med track, I woke up every day with a pretty annoyed mindset and a quivering path. And it's really weird because despite not having a what, every day that I wake up, I have a why. And that is what carries me through every single day. My why is why I want to do whatever it is that what is. But my why is also my God, my loved ones, and myself. I don't always know how I physically, mentally, emotionally, even financially can do things, but I know why, and it's because my God says so, period. And it sounds really, 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 really cliche, but that's all that really matters at the end. So now I have some advice for worrywarts like myself, or just anyone in general who would benefit from it. If you haven't found your fort yet, and it's fort, not forte. I watched a video on this like a couple of years ago. But anyway, if you haven't found it yet, it's probably because you haven't been trying anything new. I find my greatest joy when I placed myself in uncomfortable environments and I went in with a positive mindset. So I go into situations now that make me scared, and not, to a point where I physically feel threatened, but I know it's not something that the old me would do. But I go in with a positive mindset, saying that this is not something I'm familiar with, but I'll become good at it. I'll do good with it. And that's really the only way to find what works for you. Like, it sounds so simple, but this is such a hard concept for people to grasp, because oftentimes people want to do what makes them comfortable and they think that that's going to make them grow. But at the end of the day, that's just going to make you sedentary. It's going to make you complacent. It's going to make you stagnant. It's going to make you settle for less. And don't ever sell yourself short. Always push yourself further than you think you can go, because your maximum is so much greater than you think. Like, oftentimes we really underestimate the power of ourselves. There are so many people I know who are so encouraging to me and to others. And I'm just like, I wish you could see that same potential in yourself. You could go so many places, see so many things. The same energy that you pour out to other people should be what you first put into yourself always. Always, always, always surround yourself with people who give you more than they take. Someone should never take more from you than they give you. You should always leave a conversation with a piece of knowledge from someone. I'm not, you might just be hanging out with your friends one day, and that doesn't mean you say, well, today I learned that the capital of Alabama is Montgomery. I'm not talking about, certain things like that. But for the most part, dialogues that you have with people, you should be learning something. And if you're not learning something, you're hanging around the wrong people. It's a big problem for human beings because we are very conceited. And I don't mean we as in every single body, but we all have a sense of ego. Even if some's ego are worse than others, we all have egocentric ideas and beliefs and actions. But often we don't like to be around people who know more than us. Like, oh, they're a know-it-all. They think they're better than me, this and that. But that's when you need to realize that those are the type of people you need to be around. If you're not hanging around people who are teaching you things, showing you new ways to do things, showing you new ideas, introducing you to new perspectives, you're around the wrong people. Because if you're not around people who are expanding your mind, all you're really doing is surrounding yourself with people who talk in one big circle and you don't go anywhere fast at all. And it's sad to say, but that can be your closest friend, that can be a parent, that can be a sibling, that can be anybody close to you, that can be a significant other. But your peace of mind is way more important than anybody's approval. If you go from saying, I want to do A, but now I want to do B, and they don't back you up, that says everything in and of itself. Someone who loves you is going to support you no matter what you do. As long as it's something that you're not harming others or yourself, they should be happy for you. They should be your biggest cheerleader. They should be in the stand holding up a fat head saying, go you. If it's something that you're truly passionate about, they should understand that, well, I know that this night he, she, they, whatever, are going to be studying for a big test, doing a big project, whatever it is, and respect those boundaries, because nobody who loves you is going to separate you from your dreams. And if someone tells you to choose between them or your dreams, I'm telling you, every single time, go for your dreams, because that is you. What sets your soul on fire is your passion. And if you're even able to say, oh, well, I'll just give this up and go with the person, that's not your passion. And I'm not saying you should always choose work or your passion over people, but you need to be able to recognize when someone is making you choose between the two, because it should never be an option. It should be able to be, well, I'm going to do this, but I'm also going to be with you, whatever, you know, a job, relationship, anything. And at the same time, you can support visions, but also not be a yes man. So if you have a legitimate concern, bring it to the attention of the person you say you love or care about. And that might not mean they're going to take heed to it, because if it's their vision, no one's going to be able to see it but them. No one's going to be able to understand it the way that they do. But also, don't be afraid to receive criticism and feedback, positive feedback, constructive criticism, and also don't be afraid to give it out, because no matter what, none of us are perfect. We're never going to be perfect, and we're always going to be evolving. So give that help when you can. And the way that I like to look at situations is someone should be your charger, not your drainer. Someone should be filling you up and charging you, not draining you. If they are draining you, they don't need to be in your life. Another tip of mine is to train your mind to see the blessing in every lesson. So as I said in my last podcast, my mom always tells me to own your pain and throw yourself a pity party. But at the same time, you've got to leave the event at some point and recollect your life. So never minimize your emotions or anybody else's, but also don't let them swallow you whole. I get rejections to this day. People see me and for some reason they just think they think I'm invincible. I'll say that I'm a superwoman because I do wonderful things, but I'm not perfect. I am not, running on, gold or something, and I'm always happy, I'm always sad, I'm always succeeding, I'm always doing this. No. I get rejections. I mean, the last rejection I got was not that long ago. Something I really wanted to do, but I needed to realize and recognize that God said this was not for me. This was not what I was supposed to be doing at this point in time. If I were ready for it, if it were for me, He would have given it to me. And of course, I'm going to cry. I have cried. I read things that I get, rejections through teary eyes. Then I cry some more. But then what do? I can't continue on about my day, because I wholeheartedly believe that rejections are either God's redirections or delays, or sometimes they're just no's. But nevertheless, He will never not give you what's yours, but He will also not give you a task until you're ready for it. Even if you call your higher power God, Allah, Jehovah, another name, or you're not spiritual or religious at all, the underlying takeaway is the same. What you've worked for will be yours in due time. I like to give people advice all the time, so what I'm about to say, you might have heard me say this before, and that is, your pace is the best pace. Never, ever, ever downplay your own progress, no matter how insignificant it may seem to you. You may be a 35-year-old man who just learned how to ride a bike, and you may be like, oh, well, I just learned how to ride a bike. Everyone knows how to ride a bike. You learn how to ride a bike. Pat yourself on the back. Be proud that you learned how to ride a bike. You may have passed a class that you've had to retake 3 or 4 times that everyone else passed with an A or B or C or whatever the first time around. Like, oh, well, everyone's doing it. No big deal. You may, be 50 years old and say, well, I'm just now getting my bachelor's or master's or doctorate. I should have done this, years ago. Everyone does it. Do not ever, 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 ever listen. If you come to me and you say, oh, it's just whatever, and you shrug your shoulders, I'm going to have a bone to pick with you, because you should never downplay your own progress. We see time and time again that everybody doesn't, quote, get it at 16, 18, 21, or any other number that society has etched into our minds. My mother, she did not become a licensed practical nurse until she was 45 years old, had 3 children, and was married. I mean, I just look at her in amazement, because I'm just like, how did you do that? Like, I'm just like, wow, my parents are such role models for me. Same for my grandmother, bringing up children and raising such wonderful kings and a queen, and just creating this future generation that is going to change the world. I know that I'm going to change the world. I know that my brother is going to change the world. My sister's going to change the world. And as Tupac once said, I personally may not change the world, but I will definitely spark the mind that will change the world. And I say all that to say that if you know you're it early on in life, that's great, and you should work on perfecting that craft as soon as you know. But don't beat yourself up if you don't have it all figured out, because it is never too late. Society, likes to make us think that life is a race and that only those who cross the finish line first are the best, but that's not the case at all. And sometimes people are going fast, but they are headed nowhere. Never look to the side to compare yourself to another person. You should only be looking to the person beside you to help that person or to learn from them. Someone who I just have to meet before I leave this earth is Valencia Clay. She is such a powerhouse for inspiration and everything amazing. If you don't know Valencia, I'm going to give you just a little background on her. She teaches middle school, and she's a teacher of humanities in Harlem, New York, and she's also a graduate of Morgan State University. While she worked for the Baltimore City Public Schools, she earned a master's in special education and also a certification in administration and supervision from Johns Hopkins University. And she often says time and time again that she's a teacher first, then, she does everything else from empowering people and writing books as an author, things of that nature. But I bring her up to say that what I'm about to do is debunk my entire listen title, Chase Your Craft. And it's good to have different perspectives. Valencia says that we should not necessarily chase our dreams. And it's going to sound ludicrous, but hear me out. When people are so headstrong about something, they lose sight of what they're actually going after. So say you want to be the world's best rapper, just using that as an example. You want to be the greatest rapper of not only your time, but of history. People will be studying you forever. But what social media does is it sets us up for failure. And I know there are great things that come out of social media, but it becomes a problem when we start to compare ourselves to other people and we base our value on numbers. If you're a rapper and you know that your music is great, your music is great, and it should not matter whether you have 1 follower, 15 followers, 15,000 followers, 150 followers, 15 million followers. But social media and society wants us to think that we need to have those numbers to back us up, to validate us, that they add some type of value to our passions, to our crafts, to our work ethic, and they don't. It's good to look at your feedback and to see what people think. But I'm telling you, what I'm doing now, I'm not doing this to say, oh, I got 15,000 followers, I got all these people, this and that. I want to be able to reach however many people God wants me to reach in some way and give us, just a piece of knowledge of some sort to give to people. My goal isn't to be the next female Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the next Shonda Rhimes, the next Oprah Winfrey, Maya Angelou, nothing. I don't want to be any of them. I want to be me. And that is the greatest thing that you can do, is to be yourself. I really believe that you should study the greats, because that is a great way to see what a great is. But be your own person. Be your own great. Make your own name for yourself. Because the vision that God gave to Oprah is not the same one that he gave to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The same vision that God gave to J. Cole is not the same vision that he gave to Chance the Rapper. The same vision that God gave to the person who is now, a pediatrician in Washington State is not the same vision that he gave to another pediatrician in California. The same vision that God gave Da Vinci is not the same vision he gave Picasso. Bottom line is, what God gave you is for you and nobody else. What you're going to do, nobody else is ever done and no one else is ever going to be able to do. I'm not saying we should think that we're better than people just because we are so unique, but we need to realize, and I also got this part I'm about to say from one of Valencia's Instagram posts, and we are not in competition. I personally believe that God put us in communities, groups to work with each other. If we were meant to be alone, people would, be born to their parents and dropped off, on a spot somewhere, and you'd have to teach yourself how to, harvest food, and we would be able to learn how to acquire a language over time without talking to other people. If we were meant to be alone and we were meant to collect all of the riches and hold them for ourselves, that's how it would be. But we are in groups. We are all connected, whether that's a village in an African country, a city in an African country, a school in a European country, a club in an American country, whether it's the four walls to a home on an island. No matter what, people are usually in groups or some type of collection with other people, and that's because God wants us to help one another. When one of us makes it to the top, God wants us to pull each other up and also give other people the opportunities to do what it is that they want. And it's harder for some people. People are born into situations that they have no control over. Some people are given the worst cards, it seems like. But you don't have to necessarily be a product of your environment. A quote that I love is that the same water that hardens the egg is the same water that softens the potato. I understand that everyone has trials and tribulations. Some are different from others. But God is going to get you through it. And if you don't believe in God, believe in yourself and believe that you'll get yourself through it. So to bring that full circle back to what Valencia was saying about you don't necessarily have to chase your dream. Sometimes the dream will come to you when you just live, because we should not be so headstrong about what we want to do that we lose sight of the now, the present. We need to be able to enjoy the present, know our past, and that will create our future. And just because something is your passion does not mean it's going to be easy. There are plenty of nights where I don't get as much sleep as I should. There are going to be times where you feel like throwing in the towel, and that's often when you're closest to your breakthrough. God he literally needs to crumple you up into a ball of paper to get you to be where you need to be in life. He will literally deconstruct you and unwind you to stitch you back up into the person you're supposed to be. And those stitches come through new experiences, new people, putting yourself where you don't want to be, putting yourself where you never thought you could get out of, putting yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable. I cannot say that enough. Be uncomfortable. For me, something big in my life that I've always tried to find is that moment where it makes me go, oh, that's it. That's what I want to do. And I've convinced myself so many times, time and time again, oh, that's the light bulb. It just went out. Oh, this is it. It hasn't been it. I have done so many things trying to get where I think I need to be. And I've come into the realization that you need to relax. And there's a great video by Oprah Winfrey that I'm going to also attach a link to, because it's everything that people need to hear. It's Oprah Winfrey's note to self, advice, relax. And I grew up watching Oprah Winfrey after school with my grandmother, my second mother. We'd watch Oprah's show together, and I really believe that's one of the reasons why I'm so wise, because, like I said again, surround yourself around people who know more than you. Learn from the greats to be great. It's not going to be easy at all, and you know this. It's not going to be a walk through the park. You're going to have nights where you cry. You're going to have nights where you just don't do anything, and that's okay. You're allowed that. You're going to have times you have really, really good days, really, really bad days. Some days you don't know how you're going to feel. But that's just bringing you closer to the blessing that is going to be bestowed upon you. And I promise you, mine, I don't really know if mine is coming, and I'm being honest. I can't say it necessarily has as to what I'm going to do. But I know that when it does come, it is going to bring me to the ground with tears of joy. And God is going to do that for you. If you already have yours, that's great. If you don't, join the club. We'll figure this out together. So let's close out this lesson with a quote that has gotten me through a lot between my sophomore year and my junior year here at college, and it's by William C. Hannon. I know that this transformation is painful, but you're not falling apart. You're just falling into something different with a new capacity to be beautiful. Questions, comments, and concerns are invited and encouraged as always. That's all that I've got for you today. Go out and get in your go yard. Stay low and stay solid. That's all that I've got for you today. Go out and get in your go yard. Stay low, stay solid.